I think it was because we went over your highlights, why you do what you do, your why. Sure, you could skip over to the next episode. I mean, if you want to be lame, but I think that going over why you started this, the 6 E's, and all those important things is important because it goes over your why you enhance.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of like I'm the interviewee, I'm the guest of this first episode, and you.
That's why he's in that chair.
Yeah, that's why I'm in this chair. And also, there was one other thing that I thought was pretty important. I gave an analogy, I think, that I thought was really interesting. Of course, biased.
Simon Sinek.
Well, we talked about Simon Sinek and the why, but also we gave an analogy about.
Oh, yeah.
And so we don't want to too much into that, but I think that gives you some inspiration. If you're looking for inspiration, check out this show. That's kind of what I'm getting at, right? That's really one of the keys of the show is the inspiration. We really want you to learn. We want you to laugh. We really want you to be inspired.
Yeah, definitely. So y'all enjoy the show, and I guess we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Welcome to Enhance, an AEC podcast, where we learn the why behind AEC professionals so that you can learn your why.
Hey, Madeline, how's it going?
I'm doing all right. Glad to be here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm excited because this is our first episode of the Enhance AEC podcast. And really, this episode, we're going to just introduce what this podcast is all about.
Right.
And I brought you in for this episode. You're my producer. Did you know that?
I did.
Okay. So I appreciate you volunteering for that position or
voluntolding.
Yeah, so I voluntold you. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what your role is as well. So, but in this episode, I'm sitting in this chair, which normally I'll be sitting over there because I'm the interviewer. But in this particular episode, you're interviewing me because we're going to learn really what this podcast is all about and what people should expect and like the why of the podcast. And so those are some of the things we're going to discuss today. So I'm going to hand the microphone, if you will, over to you and then let you kind of lead this. So I've given you some questions there and some bullets. So do you want to go ahead and just start working through those?
Yeah, we can start this. So, I mean, going over, what do you think that Enhance podcast is about? Like, what inspired you to start this?
So, yeah, the Enhance AEC podcast really is an outpouring of a lot of things. I've been doing this for 26 years. Structural engineering is what my role in the AEC industry is. Mm-hmm. And I've enjoyed learning about structural engineering, but I learn about other aspects of the industry, mostly from tangent aspects, electrical engineering or architecture or things that maybe I'm not as involved in on a day-to-day basis. Even the construction side, which we're involved obviously from an engineering standpoint, but there's a lot of aspects of it that I don't know. And that's so there's a learning aspect of this that I want to gain from it. So I'm on a journey to learn more. And I also want to learn why, what drives people in what they're doing, because what we're doing in the AEC industry is very important. In terms of the built environment, we're making the world a better place, right? And so that's really what I want to learn about is why are people doing what they're doing? Because we could do anything. We could do structural engineering. We could make donuts, but we chose the AEC industry, those of us that are in this industry. And so the question is why? I want to understand why. I want to understand the technical of what these people are doing in various aspects and peek over the fence into architects, into other engineers like mechanical engineers maybe or electrical. I want to understand what developers do even and what contractors do. That's a little bit about the why of the podcast.
Yeah, that's the why of the podcast. So I guess we've gone through the first points.
Yeah, a little bit.
What would you say is the goal of this podcast? Like the ultimate goal of this podcast? What are we looking to find out here and do?
So I would say, our tagline is we want to learn about professionals in the AEC industry, and particularly their why, so that you can learn your why. And I didn't quite hit it like you do in the intro, but the idea is that we're learning about the why of AEC professionals so that we can find out more about our own why, right? And we definitely want to hit the learning and the technical part, but we also want to hit the why, what drives people. Because we want to go beyond just, we're stacking bricks, right? It's the old analogy. I don't know if maybe you've heard it. It's been used in some sermons, but the idea is that there were three people making a church. They were building a church, right? And they were all three bricklayers. And the first guy, I don't know who it was that came up to him. It was like a pastor, or maybe it was a bishop, but they were building a cathedral actually. And so the first guy, the bishop came up to him and said, "Hey, what are you doing there?" And he said, "Well, I'm stacking bricks." The second guy, the bishop comes up to the second guy and says, "Hey, what are you doing there?" And he was stacking bricks as well, but he said, "Well, I'm building this wall, which is going to help with the church," right? And then the bishop came up to the third guy and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm building a cathedral." So
this podcast is about how you view things and how your small part in society is helping.
Yeah, exactly.
Or building.
Yeah, as a structural engineer, I could say, well, I'm just running calcs. I could say I'm just drawing beams. Or I could say I'm designing something that's going to enhance the world around me, right?
Right.
Holy Trinity Christian School, which is right down the street from us. We did that recently, and we know that they're getting value in that school. They're getting education. So and that's true for architects, that's true for engineers, that's true for contractors, developers. Is the why you're doing, is it something bigger, or is it just stacking bricks? So that's what we want to learn about. I got the idea of the why really from a guy named Simon Sinek, and my friend who's going to be on our next episode number 2, my friend was telling me about this guy named Simon Sinek, and he talks about start with the why. And so it's sort of a aspect of this that I think is important, is make sure you understand your why. What's next on the agenda?
I got a lot of arrows pointing to random places.
Yeah.
So I guess we already hit point 3. Sorry.
I guess, yeah, I mean, obviously I want to go into who I am as a person a little bit more, and then I want to bring you in as well. So, I mean, this is just a conversation. So you and I are just talking here in the first episode. And I mean, we're learning what this is going to be, right?
Right.
It's going to evolve, I'm sure. But this is just a short episode to really introduce all of that. But a little bit more about me as a person, that talks about the why of the podcast. A little bit more about me and who I am. Well, I've got 26 years of experience as a structural engineer. I'm a professional engineer, a structural engineer, and licensed. I'm a family man. I've got 6 kids, some of which are out of the house, some of which are still at home, all the way from 24 to 9. You are one of those kids, so you're my only girl. We've got 5 boys and a girl. I'm happily married, and I have a beautiful wife, Esther. And I like to say that she's kind of like the 7th E of the business, which is 29E6.
I've never heard you say that before.
Well, maybe you haven't said it, but I do like to think it in my mind, and I may have blogged about it at one point. So, another thing too. I mean, this podcast really enhanced. We want it to really be its own entity of. In terms of like almost a muse or a business, but the reality is it is an outpouring of the structural engineering business. It is a marketing effort. We do want to get more work through this and to give our business a name. So 29E6 is the name of our structural engineering firm, and I like numbers, so that's the modulus of steel, the modulus of elasticity, to be specific.
How bendable steel is.
Yeah, okay, good. Daughter of an engineer here, and that's in PSI. So 29E6 is like the exponent, so exponent 6. But I like numbers, and so I named my business after a number, first thing. But second thing, I like to use some of those numbers. For example, E6 there's 6 E's. And so we have the 6 E's of 29E6. And so there's 6 values. And one of those values in it is enhance the world around us, right? And so that's really was triggered and was the seed of Enhance Podcast, was the why of why we do what we do at 29E6. But then we also wanted to learn more about what other people do as well. But I kind of got off track talking about my family because I wanted to talk about my wife, Esther, who is kind of like the 7th E of 29E6. Without her, I couldn't do what I do as a business owner. And she's just so supportive of everything I do. So I'm very thankful for her. The other aspect about me, I'm a faith-based person. I have a strong belief in Christ, and that drives me as a person, right? So that's really a big why of everything I do, right, is my faith. And I don't like to necessarily beat my faith over the head of people, but at the same time, it's an integral part of who I am. And so I naturally just share things about what's important to me in terms of faith, in terms of family, in terms of the values that we have. And so that's a little bit about me. And so I wanted to turn it to you a bit and talk about your role in this and how that sort of was born as well, which I'll just share a brief aspect of that. I knew that I wanted to have somebody to talk to when I do these podcasts, right? So interview, obviously format, I'll be doing most of the interviews and the interviewee will be mostly sitting here, or if it's a Zoom based, then obviously on the other side of the computer. You'll jump in at times when it's relevant, but in situations like this, we'll have a kind of a pre-show of sorts or a pre-discussion of sorts at the beginning, and it'll be you and I just going over that conversation, number one, and kind of giving people an idea of what to expect in the show, like what the high points are. So that's going to be the format of the show. Is you and I will go over kind of that pre-show aspect, and then during the show I'll be interviewing people, and you'll be out of the picture, so to speak. Although sometimes you'll jump in, as we found.
Just sat out there for a while.
Yeah.
Made sure it was running.
Exactly. Make sure she's basically our producer, so make sure the record button's on and everything's working properly. So we appreciate you doing that. So tell me a little bit about you and why you agreed to do this.
Well, I remember we were in the car on the way to Santee, South Carolina, and you brought this idea to me where you were like, I want to do this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, let's do it, of course. So then we spent 2 hours talking about the details, guests, ideas, things we'll go over, the whole point of the show. And I thought, I love this idea. Mm-hmm. And I was honestly like on the edge of my seat, like couldn't wait till we got this thing off the ground. Still can't wait. I don't really know why I'm part of this podcast other than the fact that I like watching the other 2 interviews with Stoney and Charlie. I saw the value in it where it had the purpose of learning from other people. You never stop learning, but just watching that and seeing how to grow based on other people's beliefs and seeing those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A little bit about myself. I am, like you said, only girl with 5 brothers, so that plays into my personality a bit. I'm definitely like a big personality, extroverted,
Yeah, so not afraid of the camera, so to speak?
No, I'm not, except sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and really, I mean, for the listeners, I mean, I think you can tell like there's a definite energy that Madeline brings to the room, and so that's part of what I wanted to bring in. So what's your experience with construction, with architecture, with engineering? Like,
none.
Okay, so you have 0 experience. All right, well, why should the listener listen to you then on that front?
Because you asked me to.
Because I asked you to. Very, very good. I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, really, you're a facilitator, you're a producer, you're bringing, some fun to the room because we do want to entertain people. We want to make it fun. And I think we have a few laughs on this podcast. So if you're running right now, if you're driving home from work or whatever you're doing, I hope that you're having fun while you're learning about engineering, while you're learning about architecture, while you're learning about construction, development, anything in the AEC industry that could help you get ahead. Also, you're learning about the why. You're learning about, you're not just stacking bricks in your life, but you're building a cathedral, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to help people with that. And then we want to help people have a little bit of fun. So we want you to learn, we want you to laugh, and we want you to cry. And I say that in a proverbial sense, that we want you to really think about the deep things of life, right? And I feel like we have hit on that already on some of the podcasts we've recorded. So anything else you want to say about yourself?
I think that going into this first episode, I had a lot of time thinking to myself, because I do that a lot, but I feel like I enhance things through my art.
Yes.
Like, that's definitely something that I hit the point of, like, a couple months back. Why am I still working on this art? What is the point of all this? Why am I doing any of this? And I thought about it, and I'm like, I feel like doing this, it allows people to see things through my perspective a little bit, to show them the gifts God has given me, to show them how I see things, and to enhance the world around me through that. And it's about not making the world a better place, like, pageant, but, showing others how I see things and making the world a better place.
Yeah. I mean, it does sound a little cheesy, right?
It does.
And at the same time, because we go through these, as you possibly know or probably know, I go through these 6 E's with my team.
Yes.
When we have team meetings, right? So we want to understand, why are we even here in this team meeting? I mean, who called this meeting? Why are we here? And what am I going to get out of it? Well, ultimately, if you're having a meeting, in my opinion, you should have a purpose for the meeting. And the purpose of everything we do at 2096 is to meet our 6 E's, right? So what are those 6 E's? I might as well go ahead and lay them out a bit. So number 1, every business needs 3 of these E's, right? In my opinion. So you need to be excellent, or else you might as well not show up, right? So if you're making cookies or making donuts or building a bridge or designing a bridge or designing a building, you need to do it with excellence, right? I want the best cookie you can make, right? Next is, we want to earn a profit. So we know that earning a profit is the lifeblood of a business. We have to make a profit. If we're not making a profit, we're not in business. So we have to make a profit. And number third. So
tertiary reason.
Yeah, the number 3 reason, I'll get it right. So we like to have fun too, right? Which is the third one, right? Which is enjoy. You want to enjoy what you're doing. And I think that if you're doing what God called you to do, you are going to enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's number 3. But also it's about, having good relationships with your customers, having good relationships with your clients, or the contractor, or the architect, or whomever's involvement, your team. So those are all important. So those are the 3 base things that any business, but then when we get to structural engineering, there are 3 additional things that make us a little different in terms of what we do. And the next E is the ensure safety. That's what a structural engineer does.
Yeah.
And if we don't do that, we might as well call it a day. That's what we do. We ensure safety. And ensuring safety includes not just the safety piece, but also the serviceability. So we don't want beams to fail, but we also don't want beams to deflect too much. And we also don't want those beams to corrode, right? So that's durability, all right? Some people are calling it resilience now. So that's number 4. And then the next one is sort of our USP, our unique selling proposition, which is efficiency, right? We have to be efficient in order to set ourselves apart from other engineers. So we say that we provide streamlined structural engineering, including structural support, including construction support. So that's number 5. And then number 6, guess what that one is? Enhance, right. So those questions either address like the first 3 E's, kind of like the base business aspects, or what we do with ensure, how we do it with efficiency. But this one questions why. Why do we do what we do? Because we want to enhance the world around us. And so that's, again, why this podcast is really an outpouring of what we do here at 2096. So we definitely want to, we want this thing to grow and people to enjoy it, so that we can do more. We can grow our brand, right? We definitely want this to grow our brand, but at the same time, we want people to enjoy this and really benefit from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. I don't think we really got into what we may need to bring this in for a landing, but I don't think we got into why the interviewees, I guess, the guests, why the guests would benefit from this. So would that be a good thing to talk about next?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
I guess you stole my thunder there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I guess the next question would be, why do we bring in guests? What's the point of it? What is the point of it? Why are we bringing in people to tell their story, to tell their why?
Yeah, I mean, so we definitely got into why the listener should listen to it, all the things that they're going to gain from this. But as far as if you want to be a guest on the show, let me know. But really, you may be saying, well, why should I be a guest on the show? Well, there's a few reasons. Number one, this show is going to go crazy big, of course, right?
Hope so.
Yeah, so we're hoping. But we're going to be able to get your word out there, right? As an architect, as an engineer, as a contractor or developer or whomever you are, right?
In that category.
Yeah, I mean, because we want this to be people that are in the AEC industry, but also people looking over the fence. Maybe it's, like people watch the HGTV, they watch that and maybe they don't ever want to do any do-it-yourself stuff, but they might watch the TV show just for fun. Or people that like to watch the baking shows, but I'm not ever going to bake anything, but some of those baking shows are pretty good.
They are.
I mean, I might bake something every now and again, but the baking shows are pretty good, and it's just fun to watch, and it's interesting. So that's the other aspect. But so we want to get the word out there we want architects, engineers, and contractors to be able to use this as a way to get their word out there. We want people to be able to document things that maybe they wouldn't otherwise be able to document, So maybe you're somebody who's got 30, 40, 50 years of experience and you want to get those things down. And perhaps there's not another podcast or blog or book that you can put that information into. So this gives you a place to put that, right? Mm-hmm. A place to document that information. Those are really a couple of big reasons. Was there anything I missed on that front, or?
I don't think so. I think that hit all the points there.
Yeah. Okay. So, what else do you have?
I mean, I guess it's just wrap up time.
Okay.
So, did you want to wrap it up?
So, yeah, I mean, this is episode number 1. This is just a teaser and just to share the why, what we're about, who I am, who you are, what's the deal, and that type of thing. But we definitely got a couple podcasts recorded already that I think you'll find exciting and interesting. And, our first one really was a banger. I mean, we hit all 3 points. So I'm really excited about it because we learned some things about mechanical engineering. We laughed. And we might even shed a tear, but let you dig into that once you get into it.
Yeah, I still got to listen to that one.
Yeah. So that's what you have coming up next on episode number 2 of season 1. So with that, I think that brings us to the end of the episode.
Right, yeah. So come back next time, I guess, and enhance the world around you.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to today's episode of Enhance. And please leave a like, subscribe, or follow, and we'll see you next time.